What's up, everybody? I'm back with a new SmugAlana video titled They Are Pretending to Be Woke. Super curious about this, coming in completely blind, so it's caught my eye. I had to at least react to it to see what's up. Please check out SmugAlana's channel, show your support, follow me in the links in the description below of my channels, YouTube and Twitch, where I stream games, review content, as well as react to videos. And yeah, man, this will be very interesting. Oh, and don't know what's going on with YouTube recently. I don't know, the like button system seems to be like acting kind of weird, but please hit that like button, test it out, and see if it's operating properly. But without further ado,
Alright, so what the freak is that? Faking wokeness to fit in.
to speed up the thing just a smidge, so it doesn't, this video doesn't last like darn near an hour.
And 88% of students report pretending to hold more progressive views than they really do.
This is what I've always been saying. This is like a lot of us been saying. It's just like, group thing, and they most of these people don't really mean what they say. They just don't want to feel ostracized. They just want to feel like they need to be a part of something, or worst case scenario, they just want to feel like some kind of victim so they can get some kind of benefit off of it. Like, oh, I'm 1/16th Cherokee, so I want to go with the Native American crew so I can feel like a victim too. Because, like, because especially there's usually liberal white people, especially like, well, I was about to say white guys, but they just want to be like sheep and just flock to whatever that might benefit them because it's not cool to be white anymore. I was like, it sounds like a weird statement, but I'm just saying that nobody's happy with just being themselves. They gotta feel ashamed of just being coincidentally a white person or a white male, but they gotta be a part of something. That's why you get these things like queer and all these other stuff that should have just stopped at LGBT and them and that, but no, they add in all this other stuff, so now they got an excuse. I identify as queer, so they can be a part of something and reap the benefits from that. It's like, queer means nothing, non-binary means nothing. You just need to be a part of something because you feel alone. That's just my personal take, but we all know this is a load of bull.
I don't know. I think this is pretty self-evident. Like, I'm gonna read the whole post that he links to, but I could honestly believe this at face value. Yeah, I could believe this. I mean, honestly, personally, for me, I myself am pretty apolitical. Like, I'll roll around in the mud with culture war topics, but like actual hard politics, I usually avoid. And one of the biggest reasons that I've like said 1,000 times by now is that I don't like being attacked for not repeating the party line. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like having a metaphorical gun to my freaking head that says, say the line! Say the party line or else! Like, the difference is, like, the mass majority of the time on the right side of politics, and for the record, I'm talking about Twitter. The general public, not actual politicians, just so we're clear. They don't care if I say the line. Like, some may be disgruntled, and there might be a few here and there that get pissed, but it's usually a minority. At least as far as I've noticed, right? Meanwhile, if I refuse to say the left-leaning party line or talking point, I'm aggressively attacked, I'm slandered, I'm labeled a fucking Nazi, and a grifter, and, oh yeah, fascist as well.
Yeah, isn't that, like, always the same beats every time? Usually coming from the party that's supposed to be all progressive. I believe, some of them are, but the bulk of them seems to be more so you have to agree with me. If not, I ain't trying to hear your own take. You know, got misogyny or internalized misogyny. They can't just, like, hey, you got your own way of thinking. We can still be friends. X, Y, Z. But no, you hold somebody's feet to the fire that happen to be a woman or happen to be a person of color or whatever with certain things, even if you have like good facts on your hands or sources or whatever, doesn't matter, because it's all based on how they feel. And that's why it's not a good idea to have like a very matriarchal society, because they are ruled by feelings and not facts. I'm not saying like patriarchal society doesn't have some level of emotion behind it too, but it's like a secondary thing or third on the list. We gotta like look at it like the broader picture of things and make hard choices. And that is probably still the best system as opposed to the alternative.
Oh yeah, and then I get follow policed on fucking Twitter too, and I get my videos mass reported on YouTube, and my Reddit gets brigaded and reported too. Like, it's literally not even a comparison. Like, the level of harassment is completely insane, and I would honestly say that's a bit on the lighter side compared to other people. It's fucking sad. You're finally a bride? I mean, this was happening before, but my point is, to a lot of people, they realize very early that confronting, I wouldn't even say that, I would say they realize very early on that not conforming to like a political opinion, or even like having, like refusing to even have an opinion or having no opinion at all on whatever is the most popular political battlefield topic at the moment, gets them like severe harassment and slander from one side. And so they fake their values to appease those people so they can get like through whatever it is, like usually college or work or whatever. Like, they don't care about your political message. They just want to get through their fucking classes, get through school, and not get harassed, and then move on with their life. And to do that, they have to lie. Again, I do think this phenomenon,
and a lot of them, usually guys, end up dropping out of these colleges because they don't adhere to the group thing. They actually have, like, their own standards and want to stick to a particular code, and because they don't want to buy into this nonsense, they're shamed and ostracized, talked behind their back, or confronted harshly. Colleges are supposed to be a place where all ideas are shared, bouncing off one another freely. But no, it's slowly but surely got warped into this very, very left-leaning, and not even just normal left-leaning like how I grew up in. I'm talking like super crazy left-leaning that went too off the rails with no checks and balances, and now it's become like a detriment to society, where men can't find their place in colleges no more, because not only is like a part just useless, and a waste of money, and they could have easily, find like classes that's, on the, I won't say on the cheap, but cheap by comparison to college, where you can learn whatever trade crafts that you want to get into, rather than spending like thousands upon thousands of dollars on something and getting crippling debt. Guys pick up on this. Then you'll realize, oh wow, then you hear from like, one side about, the enrollmentship and graduations of women is all-time high. That's because most men are either dropping out or not attending those colleges at all. So that kind of skews the records a little bit, because if it's the colleges focus on things that is like, laborious or hard sciences, sometimes dirty jobs, things that are very masculine leaning, or even like just middle of the road, guys will overwhelmingly crush those numbers by comparison to the females, because most women, when they want to get into career fields, is things that aren't as laborious, aren't dirty, and aren't like life threatening. Because by and large, they choose fields that's catered to people and not things. Like, it's no different from all the other generations and centuries prior to now, where they get into like medical, like nursing or teaching or seamstresses, or maybe writing books, or get into the arts, at most, in terms of science, they get into like psychology, which isn't good for society either, because psychology is just kind of warped into people. It's become feminized pretty much for the most part, whereas now it's like you're applying what makes women feel better and applying it to guys, and it's not working the same degree unless you're dealing with overall sissy. But by and large, guys, if they need any type of mental health helping, then the best. I'm not, obviously I'm not a doctor, but like I just think more often than not, it'll be a lot beneficial for men to fix their problems by, doing something with their hands, fixing something, partake in something active. That does wonders for men. More so than just talking it out. Guys typically don't feel better by venting. So, yeah, colleges are a waste.
Actually became more clear to me, personally, after I started streaming. After I started having an audience and more attention was brought to the things I say. And funnily enough, we're gonna make a video, and we're gonna watch a video about it today, too. Make a video, watch a video. 88% seems high, though. There's a lot of people resisting the brainwashing. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm reading the article, too, so we'll see. This is cause for celebration. I thought they all actually held these views. Don't realize that 80%... Don't they realize that with 88% of them like that, they already have more than enough mass to fit in? They don't need the approval of the remaining 12%? But that's how it works. If you don't know what other people are thinking, you're going to think that everybody thinks like everybody else. That's the problem.
There's so much data. We'll be building models all night.
No.
But this won't make the news, unfortunately. It's going to be probably specific news outlets that isn't controlled by certain industries to speak on this, where it's like, 88% of people like in colleges don't actually buy into this crap. And it's probably only the 12%. That won't bode well in terms of like the wider, array of the propaganda machine. And that speaks also to many right-leaning celebrities who openly point out. You'd be surprised how many celebrities in Hollywood actually have conservative views. But they keep that to themselves because they want to make sure they keep working and not get ostracized or looked at funny by those super left-leaning folks like, Mark Ruffalo or whomever. They can't, some had the courage to step forward, like Kelsey Grammer or like Zachary Levi, just to name a couple. But there's plenty more. But you can't be yourself. For a party who's all about progressiveness, they are sure to turn you away and mock you and treat you like another, rather than like, this is a person who just happens to have a different viewpoint than me, but they're actually decent people there. So, but they don't want to do that. They don't want to like actually share the same space as people who are openly believe in polar opposite stuff than you. Well, by the flip side, people on the right are be more than happy to sit down with people who believe, opposite of them politically, and have not and not turn it to a federal case. Funny how that happens, because back in the day, that used to be the flip. That used to be the flip side of things. Now all of a sudden, the people on the right seems more sensible. Now I'm sure there is crazies on that side too, but they pale in comparison to the crazy lefts who push you away and not debate you on college campuses, call you names and step up to you to make some ad hominems and then walk off like they accomplished something. It's weird. It's weird how that is primarily on the left side of things.
Now, deep evolutionary coding, we're hardwired to parrot the tribe's views because historically ostracism meant death. Safety in numbers usually beats being right. I mean, yeah, I would argue that's true. I don't know. Should be interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna read the statistics because this is an actual thing apparently. Like the study, there was a study done on this. Most people like to have peace and quiet. 88% seems legit. I don't know. I feel like people just don't want to deal with conflict. Like people avoid conflict a lot more than you'd think in real life. Anyway, Twitter is like different, obviously, because there's like anonymity behind it. But yeah. I'm leftists, but they get their viewpoints. I think that's how it should be for everybody, no matter what they are. Like centrist, right-leaning, leftist, it doesn't matter. You should be able to understand that there are differing viewpoints, and you have to live with them. Sorry, it's just what it is.
I don't know about you, but less than 9 inches is not enough for me. I need 9 inches.
What you actually need is 59 inches of SmugAlana body pillow, and you can get it from gamersubs.com using code SMUG for 10% off right now. Faking wokeness to fit in. 88% of students report pretending to hold more progressive views than they really do. Ooh. A new study finds that nearly 9 in 10 students fake more progressive views than they really hold, often to appease professors.
Truth serum. What you need to do is have them, the new enrollees take truth serum and actually ask them what their true viewpoints are so you can know for certain, so they don't have nothing to hide behind. Do you truly think this way? Because I best believe there's going to be like only a small minority who actually truly believe this crap. And that way they won't be the majority anymore, so people can actually freely go to college, actually have some fair thing, because everybody knows where everybody stands truly. And those the truly crazy ones are, they're gonna have to sit in a little small pocket where people would avoid them, and we can probably have like a more normal dynamic in these campuses.
Or to stay in their peers' good graces. The habit doesn't stop at the classroom door, or even close friends and romantic partners are kept in the dark. From lecture halls to late night conversations.
And you know what? Just like with certain other industries, the old guard of teachers or deans got, forced out of these campuses for doing what is supposed to be like normal, whereas like challenging people's ideas. But because certain crazy sensitive snowflakes can't just take in what is being challenged, they take it as a personal attack. They secretly go to the head of the campus and it's like, oh, Mr. Jacobson, he said this and then the third, probably even taken it out of context, mind you. So now it's become a whole scandal, and of course the head of the campus won't like back up the teacher because It was a height of cancel culture. So it's like, we're going to let you go. I'm not getting involved. I got a livelihood too. It's your head or mine. It's like that. So there's plenty of videos of teachers from these universities who say on interviews about their tenure being completely cut underneath them because some crazy pink hair, overweight, girl with rainbow makeup, put an anonymous tip about how, like, oh, he said something in the classroom that was just words, and now her feelings are, or that's ist or a phobe. You're being you can talk about like the history of Native American people, and he says something that's factually true, but because there's a word in it. Oh, matter of fact, I got a better example here. I got a great example here. I took my the first, cause I went to take voiceover classes at the acting school in Chicago, and early on there was like a classroom, because it's like 8-week course. Within the first 4 weeks before the holiday, because it was around getting close to the holidays, that or around the fall when I started the classes, it was like a group of like 20 people, a little over like 20-24 people. And after the break, when we get back to the other second half of the classes, it was like half that at that point. But I remember one particular woman there, clearly super left-leaning, mind you, and no, our initial teacher was teaching a couple of times. He taught like the first like the first 2 weeks, because it's like once every Saturday for 8 weeks. But the first 2 weeks we had with him, but then he had like some a work thing, because he's also an actor as well. So he had like a work thing for a few weeks, so he had to be out of town. So he had somebody else, another great teacher, come in to sub up until the the holiday break before we come back for the new year. So that teacher said the word. Remember, there's like a context to this. So he was describing something. It was like a story. It's like the same thing that how we use it. He used the word retarded. Now, it wasn't insulting anybody, especially not somebody in the classroom. He was describing like a particular story, and then he just used a word within the story, like it was retarded or blah blah blah. But that girl did not show up the next class. Never showed up ever again, because by the time we were getting close to wrapping up, because the main teacher came back, and the last or the second to last Saturday before that course was complete, some of us asked what happened to do you know what happened to some of the other classmates, because we don't know what happened to them. They just kind of just not showed up. He couldn't get into much detail, but it's clearly describing that one skinny white girl is very obviously hippy dippy, you know the type. Clearly he was talking about her. She stopped going and tried to put up a fuss, but it didn't go nowhere, thank God. She tried to put up the fuss because that other teacher used the word retarded in a very benign context that isn't talking about anybody specifically, mind you. But she got so offended because he used the word. Words only got as much power as you put behind them. And she freaked out, tried to get the dude in trouble, but it didn't go nowhere. But thankfully, I don't know the complete context. It's been a long time, but I distinctly remember how she acted towards that. And I imagine a lot of campuses with college professors who talk about certain things and using in like certain words or certain dialect that is just words, not like a true slur like the N-word. But even if it was like a black teacher, he can probably freely say like the N-word all live long day. That aside, is irrelevant. It's the fact that like a college campus where you can freely talk and and bounce ideas off each other. It's kind of like a writer's room in like a movie or TV show where you're bouncing ideas off each other to see what works, or a comedian who's working through material and let things flow freely. But because it's a free flowing kind of idea of regurgitation, to see like where we can sit through this and talk and engage in good faith, people get their little feelings hurt because they're sheltered and they ain't got no freaking they wasn't prepared for life. That people will say things that they might not like themselves, but they do not want that. They're tone policing or word policing, all that stuff. And they get a lot of teachers in trouble, and they end up having to leave because they can't do their job, because they got to coddle a lot of these people because they can't handle it. Now, once they leave college, they get into the real world. Now, for a while, up until very recently, we've been catering to the mindset because certain studio heads are too afraid to get canceled or lose their job. But they need to start growing some balls. These, heads of these campuses, these heads of studios need to grow some balls and say like, well, tough titties. Go home and collect yourself, because I'm not your parents. None of us are your siblings. We're a business. You can't handle certain things that are going to be said. You ain't ready for life. There's going to be things that you might not like. It might warp your sensibilities a little bit. It might hurt your little feelings a little bit. But you push on. At the end of the day, they are just words. You don't have to like it. I'm not saying that nobody can suffer a certain level of consequences. Like a white person said the N-word to me in a malicious way doesn't mean that he won't get punched in the freaking face. Don't get it twisted. But it's all about context. Okay? I can parse between, what's being said and how it's being said and what context is being said and who is saying it. It's a laundry list of things that you gotta parse through to determine whether or not it's in a malicious fashion or is under like the opposite.
Students are learning that conformity pays and candor costs. If universities still see themselves as incubators of independent thought, those numbers should be a wake-up call. Can students truly develop as thinkers when honesty feels unsafe? No, of course they can't. Like, that's the biggest problem. Like, nobody thinks for themselves anymore. Every opinion is some, like, disgusting amalgamation, a fucking homunculus of thoughts being injected to them by Twitter, Reddit, and I guess their peers in the school classroom or whatever. Like, even asking questions or pointing out an inconsistency is, like, viewed as being a Nazi. Because if you truly care about this cause or whatever it is, why would you question it? That's the problem, right? How many clips have circulated on Twitter of, like, a protester being asked what they're protesting about and they just don't fucking know? How many have even, like, puddle deep knowledge of the thing they support?
TurboTax locations are now open.
Ooh. Sorry, I got stressed.
By design. You're not supposed to be educated on the topic. You're not supposed to have all your questions answered. What you're supposed to do is be a good little retard and say the line. And if someone doesn't agree with you, and then you berate and slander and like attempt to ruin their life. It sucks. And that's the essence of it too. And that's why people get so irritated when you say, like, I'm not educated enough to have this opinion. It's like, well, you should go get educated. It's like, you know, I only have so much time in the day, and like trying to understand massive geopolitical historical facts and then being able to process them without like some sort of bias or forming an opinion that is my own takes time. It's ridiculous. And then people get mad at you for that. For sure. Because it takes time to be educated.
Yeah, I hate that little phrase that people tend to throw out, whether it's on the right or the left side. It's like, makes you take time to be educated. Why don't you go like, yeah, sure, obviously you should be like studious, depending on the topic at hand. But don't just throw it out in the middle of an actual good faith conversation. It's the same thing how I feel about like people who tells people, oh, like if there's a discussion about how kids are being put through these indoctrination stuff with like being taught by drag queens or something like that, and somebody, you know, gives their critique and some other person is like, oh, you can't talk because you're not a parent. And it's like, that is like very disingenuous. Okay, we're all free thinkers. We all can hear or read a story, and you know, given the information, we can form an opinion. Just because you're not a this and a third doesn't mean you can't still form an opinion through the information that's given to you. That is, you know, disingenuous, and you just kind of cut, you know, like you don't want to have like a good faith conversation at that point. You're derailing everything instead of just engaging. Same thing how I feel about people who, like, you know, when you use a particular word in a sentence and using it correctly, mind you, using it correctly, but somebody derails the conversation, you don't even know what that means. Why don't you tell me what that even means? And it's like, why do you want to derail the conversation? Like, if that person didn't use the word incorrectly, and just because you can't verbatim say like the definition, like right offhand, as you put him or her on the spot, like, you know full well the context that they're using is correct, but you just can't just engage. But you want to derail the conversation with why, so you can feel superior because, oh, you know the definition verbatim is good for you, but why don't you engage with the conversation? These people are here. They can't engage in good conversation. They derail things. They hide behind things. Because if they challenge, because all these real teachers out there, they actually challenge these students like they should be, irregardless of how they might feel about it. Can you engage within the topic at hand? Can you be adult enough? Because these kids are going to college, so they should be able to be adult enough and prepared enough to engage in difference of ideologies and thought process and ways of life. Because in a way, college is supposed to prepare you for life. Because when you get out in the real world, living on your own, etc., you'll be engaging with people who think vastly different than you, was raised in different circumstances, being taught by different types of parents with different belief systems, and you have to engage in a symbiotic relationship with people who have vastly different opinions. We used to know that. Not saying we didn't need to agree with everybody. That's the problem with the really far left. They want everybody to agree with them on exactly the same points. Compared to the right, sadly, most of them are more inclined to engage in debate with like various different like ideologies, the Conservative Party have very different opinions about what's conservative and what they believe in, but they don't. Not often you find them doing the exact same thing as like ostracizing or lambasting or canceling their own people compared to the left who not too long ago making all these stupid comments and jokes about Nicki Minaj because she chose to side with Trump on things that she felt passionate about, that she clearly done some work behind it and formed an opinion, but because she didn't, because she doesn't present or isn't, choose to think for herself and not rolling with the Hollywood group mindset. Now she's like, not gonna be like, I doubt she cares at this point about like selling out tickets at the same rate as before, because she made her bones. Like she like pretty much, I think she's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She made it at this point, so she can pretty much like say whatever she feel like. She's like already solidified. But because like Zachary Levi or Kevin Sorbo or Dean Cain or Tim Allen or Kelsey Grammer or Sydney Sweeney, people who have their own take and stand on it, they like, people are hard pressed to bring them on to any projects. So much for like being inclusive, people, because like I don't agree with everything on the conservative side, nor do I agree with everything on the left side. There are bits and pieces that I can parse for myself and utilize for myself that will work for me. At this point, I'm more moderate than anything else, but I just ain't gonna sit there and go one way all the way or the other side all the way, because it's not healthy. Like, who agrees with everybody 100% of everything? That's insane. It's like, I like Obama, but I don't agree with everything 100%, what him or his family does. It'd be insane to do so. It's like, I love my family. I don't agree 100% of what they do. And this is my family, mind you.
Below is an excerpt from an article in The Hill by the study's authors. You can read the full piece here, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Between 2023 and 2025, we conducted 1,400 confidential interviews with undergraduates of Northwestern University and the University of Michigan. We were not studying politics, we were studying development. Our question was clinical, not political. What happens to identity formation when belief is replaced by adherence to orthodoxy? We asked, have you ever pretended to hold more progressive views than you truly endorse to succeed socially or academically? An astounding 88% said yes. 78% of students told us they self-censor on their beliefs surrounding gender identity, 72% on politics, 68% on family views. More than 80% said they had submitted classwork that misrepresented their views in order to align with professors. To test the gap between expression and belief, we used gender discourse, a contentious topic, both highly visible and ideologically loaded. In public, students echoed expected progressive narratives. In private, however, their views were more complex. And again, I think in my opinion, this has always been the case. Like, students always try to read their professor and guess what they like and dislike so that they can, like, appeal to those things and they get preferential grade treatment or whatever. Like, if they get a higher mark or a higher score. That's always happened. It's human nature. The problem is, like, how much politics has made it into the classroom because of, like, politically captured teachers and professors. And the problem is like, in this concept, this political correctness, it spreads like a fucking weed because the professors that don't conform will have their job threatened. Usually by slander, being called a racist or whatever. So you end up having this, like, self-filtering effect where the professors that don't agree are either canceled or they leave the profession or their career completely. The ones that don't care will conform to keep their fucking job. And the ones that have, like, explicit political beliefs have free reign, you know? It's called the chilling effect. I've never heard of that, but it sucks. The ability of information is most important, closely guarded natural resources. Information is more valuable than gold, and so they will make us pay for it with money. This happens even at work, though. You can't even say like, oh, you know, because it's in the classroom. Like this is a very small sample size, but I do think it's a very interesting thing to look at. Self-censor is the most tragic thing to have happened. Yeah. To test the gap between expression and belief, we used gender discourse, a contentious topic both highly visible and ideologically loaded. In public, students echoed expected progressive narratives. In private, however, their views were more complex. Perhaps most telling, 77% said they disagreed with the idea that gender identity should override biological sex in such domains as sports, healthcare, or public data, but would have never voiced that disagreement out loud. And this fragmentation doesn't end at the classroom door. 73% of students reported mistrust in conversations about these values with close friends. Nearly half said they routinely conceal beliefs in intimate relationships for fear of ideological fallout. This is not sustainable. If higher education is to fulfill its promise as a site of intellectual and moral development, it must relearn the difference between support and supervision. It must recenter the truth, not consensus, as its animating value, and must give back to students what it has taken from them, the right to believe and the space to become. I've said this many times, by these like blindly supportive people of certain progressive things, you end up actually like hurting the movement. They're obviously talking about trans people here. They're not saying it, but that's what they are saying. Yeah, this falls on
pretty much word salad, because they know full well the backlash they will get. That's why they have to change things like the term DEI to something else, while still keeping like those kind of offices in certain industries, so they won't get like, because they realize they can't be so overt about it anymore, because people have like a knee-jerk negative reaction to it because of what they putting out there to the masses. Now they gotta be covert about it, but that's pretty much what this all is. Word salad just basically mean like they're talking about trans, but you know, don't fall for it. Do your like, that's why like when it comes to like video games, for example, I am very, you know, I think it's been a while, but I've been very mindful of what I choose to consume in terms of comics and video games, and to some extent movies and TV shows, depending on, you know, how crazy they're getting. Because I gave Acolyte a good fair shake, but after 3 episodes, my brain just like, no, it just stopped functioning at a certain point, and it's like I can't engage anymore. It's just that bad. Not even just like a bad Star Wars show, but it's just a bad show in general. So bad, my brain just refused to engage any further into it. I could not. So you got to be mindful of what you consume and what you're like, you know, if you have children, what they consume, because like I think Bluey was fine until they started introducing unnecessary things like same-sex marriages. These are little kids, don't need to know any of that stuff. I don't care if they got classmates that might have 2 moms. They don't need to know all that stuff. You as a parent need to like be the one to discuss that, not a TV show. But that shouldn't be in children's content like that. Like, of course, as a kid, I knew gay people existed, but I didn't need that as I'm watching Arthur or Dragon Tales or Blue's Clues. They didn't insert that crap freely, you know, in children's content. I didn't need that in my Mr. Rogers. I didn't need that in my Sesame Street. But nowadays, they putting that freely in there because they're trying to indoctrinate the kids. Let's call it what it is. Okay, I had no problem with gay people. I don't have a problem with gay people. Most people do not have a problem with gay people. I think even gay people can agree that they don't need to have all their stuff, what is synonymous with their community, injected in places that doesn't require it.
Under the same umbrella as I've talked about with like Pride Month. I've said it numerous times. I don't think Pride Month should be a thing. I think it should go away. And the reason is because it actually hurts gay people more than it helps them. Pride Month has become such a fucking circus for like the most degenerate retards to like air out their fetishes in these parades with kids in attendance.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure there was actually a gay person. Mind you, this is I can't remember how long ago it is or who done it, but I know that person was gay. Was a gay man, and he put up a comparison post. I'm pretty sure was it Amir Odom that I started doing like reactions to his videos. I'm pretty sure it was him. I can't recall, but somebody put up like a comparison shot between like the early years of Pride Month to modern day Pride Month, and it's stark difference. The early stages were very sensible. People were dressed fashionably, respectably, and just going down the street with some sense. Clearly, it's a understandably. Oh, this is a gay Pride Month, and it's just it's like almost any other parade. Where like you at that time you can be walking down the street with your kids and have no worries about it because everybody's dressed accordingly. Even if they're like like doesn't matter if they men or women, they dress sensibly. So it wasn't a big thing. Over time, things there was no guardrails, and they didn't want to look insensitive. Now they're pretty much being prideful about being debaucherous. It's just like you're now just putting like there's like photos and videos of women or studs or whomever like walking it was like guys honestly walking their partner down the street on a leash like a dog, and and so much BDSM gear and rainbows all over the place, but it's that freaking community in recent years like really made me hate the color rainbow. And I had no rainbow used to be like a very pure thing, like obviously going as far back as like the Bible with Noah, and supposed to be a symbol of like the promise he had with us not to do that again. But now it's been warped into something that's like you hate to even look at it because there's like red flags behind it now. And it's like it's debaucherous. It's pretty much like Sodom and Gomorrah on display going down the street. Instead of just being something respectable. Like nobody had no problem you having like a Pride Month at first, but over time you let things just go hog wild. It's just like you can't. That's why people can't have nothing, because there's gonna be a handful of people at some point that's gonna go take an inch and take a mile. You give them an inch and they end up taking a mile. They take it too far. It's just like, and they can just hide behind, oh, you're being homophobic, and hide behind that, so they don't no businesses want to lose money, so they let them just go free reign without like we know what you're doing. Okay, you're using it as an excuse to like go in full broad daylight, carrying on in the most over the top egregious display of sex acts as possible. Now, this is like something you can find in the nightlife of Vegas, where things can just be like whatever, or in like Amsterdam maybe, or just the privacy of your own home. But the public, where it's not just gay people there, it's a myriad of people with different beliefs and and different like sexual orientations and ages that are witnessing this. And you can't just say like, oh, why are you walking your kid down the street when you know we're having this parade? It's like, because it's a public street. You don't own the street. You are renting it, if anything. But parents are allowed to walk down the street carefree with their children without having them seeing that and having to go home and explain to an 8-year-old why, you know, a man dressed in like a BDSM tutu walking down another man with a spiked collar while he's walking on floors on the dirty ground. It's not the same thing as trying to explain to a kid why Sally has 2 mommies when they pick her up from school. It's completely different.
And for these massive corporate conglomerates to sell you their fucking bullshit with a rainbow flag on it, and all of them changing their Twitter profile picture for the month to signal support, and then just taking it off as soon as June ends, you know?
Do that with acrobat. Grab your dog.
Ugh, God, these ads, it's ridiculous. But yeah, it's like, honestly, go look it up. It's like how Pride Month started and how it's been recently. You'd be stunned how different it is.
You might not like it, you might not agree, but that's what most people think, and they expect it every year during June. It gets shoved down their throat of every single person who doesn't care, and it ends up creating resentment, which then in turn, I think creates, it actually hurts gay people.
Because you know, she's right, because you're going to end up turning people who are at most indifferent towards people of the LGBT community into somebody who will be completely intolerant and bigoted towards you where it wasn't before, because you overdid it. You overplayed your hand, you try to shove it down everybody's throats, and now you're gonna cry racism, or not racism, but bigotry, because they had enough. You pushed it. You got to have some self-awareness and realize your part. I mean, not a specific person in that community, but the wider array of the community did severe damage to the purpose of your cause. Because you could just have like a normal interaction, like, you know, like in the early 2000s, you know, it was just perfectly reasonable. Like you lived your life, I lived my life, and we had normal interactions. Your lifestyle wasn't all over the place everywhere a person can look. Yeah, not saying like you gotta hide or anything like that, but it was because we understood the vast majority of people are heterosexual. They made up the majority, so the majority of the content doesn't need everything to talk about somebody's niche lives. Not saying like every once in a while we might see something in like a product like, you know, Marvel, where 2 characters, you know, like are like, you know, not even Marvel, like DC is a good example, like Batwoman, lesbian, like it's perfectly fine, but she isn't like, you know, trying to like, you know, bang every woman imaginable or making her sexuality her only identity. She's way more than that. And that's how it should have been, or should still be. Whereas, like, yeah, you know, the person's gay, moving on. It's not like a big deal. It's still a person that got other interests and layers to them beyond the fact of their sexuality. It wasn't all over the place. They wasn't making a whole statement about it. Now everything's got to be a statement, and you gotta live your truth instead of just live your life. Nobody cares about your truth. There's the truth and there's a truth, and might say that wrong, but you know, there's the truth of the grand scope of things. that everybody agrees with, and then there's your truth, and nobody cares about your truth. There's the truth. And God, it's just it's clown world. I'm sorry. It's just like you know, like early 2000s and going as far back as maybe the 80s. It was like a. Well, I know they still had like their issues, but as far as for the sake of the argument, they say this is like, okay, by the early 2000s, there was like there's achievement of like some a level of understanding with that community. But then once Obama passed like gay rights, that should have been the win. That should have been it. No more of that extra stuff, and leave it there. But they found some extra stuff, more extra letters, and like more colors to that flag. Is just more and more and more and more and more and more and more. It never stops. And as the people in that community, the sensible ones should have rose up and said like, stop it. Okay, stop it. We're drawing the line and saying right here, we achieved what we got. Done. Okay, just let's back off, people, because they're doing more harm to that community than anything else. Is the bad faith people doing more harm to that community than anything else? Because they can just take the W and just let's all leave our normal lives now.
And the same thing can be said about this. 77% of people say that they disagree with the sports, the healthcare, and the public data referring to trans people, but they never voice that opinion. Chat, and when this becomes common, when most people feel like they can't say what they actually think, it actually creates resentment. And then in turn, it hurts the movement more than it helps. Yeah. Again, this is fun. This is kind of sad but funny. It's like when Asmongold says Nyara has done more damage to the trans movement than he could ever do. He's right. Nyara is a complete and utter fucking brainlet. They're a retard, and everything they say is so devoid from like reality and unpopular that it deals significantly more damage to trans people than Asmon or I or anyone else could ever hope to do in years. It's honestly embarrassing. And my point is this just another example of like this conform to what I say or else. Luckily, I think I've done a pretty good job of fostering a community of people that are level-headed so I can say these things without getting canceled. And even if you disagree with me, you're not like screaming at me like, oh, you're fucking Nazi. Like, it's that simple. But then if you think about it, I have privilege. These people who are like...
Yeah, it's probably fine to disagree. You being level-headed about it, yeah, it's... Like I said before, I don't agree with everybody on everything, but I'm not going to sit there and call them a is or a foe because they don't agree with me inherently because I'm a black man. It's like, it's like, okay, that's cool.
Like the average university student, the average person that's trying to get a degree and then move on with their life and, make money with their degree or whatever, that they can't do.
Match with a local TurboTax expert at our new in-person location.
They have to put on the clown makeup and then say the line, or else they lose everything. That's a problem. And if you think that it won't have massive consequences on public opinion in the coming years, you're completely wrong. Yeah, say the line. Say the line or else. A person that doesn't like your ideology can fuck up your future? Yeah, they can get you kicked out and everything. Say the line or else. What now?
Yeah, and I think that's what happened to a lot of these celebrities in recent years. Like, I didn't believe in humiliation rituals until I saw John Cena at, like, what was the Oscars a couple of years ago? Was it last year? I'm pretty sure it was the last Oscars, not the recent one, where he walked out there nearly naked. And some might say, oh, it was supposed to be a skit or a bit for a comedy laughs. And it's like, No, no, no. It was weird and it's awkward and it's like he didn't need to. He didn't really didn't need to do that. And he was trying to get the crowd laughs. There's probably like 1,000 other options you could have done that didn't require him to walk out and embarrass himself. I don't care. Yeah, he's fit, so he can probably get away with it. But it's still weird. It wasn't until that moment that actually kind of like, yeah, this is odd for him to do this. And then all of a sudden, it's like you got like all these roles he's doing and like the whole peacemaker thing. It's like with that orgy scene. It's like this is like it's like. Are you purposely want to make people think you are part of some kind of Illuminati type of thing going on? Because you're not doing a very good job in dispelling that rumor. I ain't talking about John Cena specifically. I'm just saying like things like that. There's a lot of people in that bubble that's going through very devilish stuff. Like the whole Lil Nas X lying down a stripper pole into hell to land on the devil's D. You don't look at that and say like, okay, this is very weird. This is not even, you can't even, you're trying to rest on the laurels of artistic liberties when what you're doing is demonic. I'm sorry, I don't use that word lightly. I'm not like super religious. I am a Christian. I do believe in God, but I'm not like super religious and Bible thumper about it. But I look at that and even I'd be like, okay. And then dude was like, what, last year was in like around last fall was drugged out in the middle of the street with his underwear just nothing but his underwear and boots on, clearly like high out of his gourd. It's just like, okay, this is weird. It's very weird. But they gotta like but as long as they stick to that little code of theirs, they also get like all this money and opportunities and stuff like that, instead of going through the tried true way of merit and hard work. There's some merit to the whole ritualistic stuff. It probably holds some weight here.
Well, hopefully you can get your job, buddy. Again, here's another fun fact, chat. You can see the whole pretending to agree with like X opinion or Y opinion in order to not get canceled phenomenon like play out on an even larger scale if you look at social media. Like look at X and shit. Let's do like a quick thought experience. Like on Twitter, it emphasizes free speech. It has low levels of moderation. And people consider it a right-wing grifter Nazi website, and countries in Europe are trying to get it banned. But then you think about 4chan, they emphasize free speech. They have really low levels of moderation. It's considered, what is it, like a fucking Nazi fascist website by pretty much everyone? But then, here's the flip side. I've talked about this before. The flip side of Reddit, they emphasize extremely heavy moderation. They ban anyone who makes jokes, anyone who has wrong-think opinions, and that's considered the quote-unquote front page of the internet, right? With Blue Sky, which was made in response to Twitter, or X, or whatever, they emphasize really, really heavy moderation, and they ban anyone who has wrong-think opinions.
Okay, sorry, I have to jump and see.
And by the vast majority of people that use it, it's considered the quote-unquote better alternative to Twitter. Do you, like, see the pattern? Now, why...
Art Sobcom, keep it up, bro. Just get content on other platforms, YouTube Shorts, and good luck. Thank you for that. Dro WXXI, yeah, section. Not the obvious reactor. Yeah, it's Inception. It's reaction Inception. Sorry, but I'm starting to be more of a fan of some of these VTubers in the in the end of last year, getting into the new year. It's like I got so invested, and I like some of these people's takes, and I like pop culture stuff, and like I went down like the rabbit hole with this stuff.
Why do you think the kids and the university students feel like they need to fake their opinions. Gee, I fucking wonder why. And the worst part is that these people on Reddit and Blue Sky will try and gaslight you into thinking that isn't the case. They'll justify banning people because they're quote-unquote like Nazis and fascists or whatever. If you ever wonder why the kids are faking their opinions, like, look no further than social media.
One card, 2 ways to pay.
And what really grinds my gears is like these celebrities like transing their kids before they even hit freaking puberty. Oh, the young Sherlock Holmes. I'm kind of interested in checking that out. March 4th. I do like Sherlock Holmes typically, so I might at least give it a shot and see how that is. Anyway, that should have been like, well, a red flag to everybody, but it's only for most people. Where it's like, why? Like your 5-year-old thinks he or believes he is she. It's like, no, you don't. And it's like, but they buy into that because, once again, overreaction of society because some people wasn't believed and went through hurt and trauma because their parents didn't believe them as they was raised in the church, and I felt this way. Well, yeah, you're probably the minority. It's not that many people probably is going through that realistically, and more often than not, kids say the darndest things. Just because like somebody said like I'm Optimus Prime at 7 years old doesn't mean they gotta get like surgery to make part of their body metal, because you don't want to make the kid grow up feeling like they wasn't heard, they wasn't seen. Like come back to us after you're 21, then we'll talk. But right now you're a kid, and it's irresponsible and dangerous and stupid of these parents putting their kids through that stuff. I know a couple I have in mind that I think is crazy stupid, but because black people like them so much, I don't want to sit there and say their names. But I'm pretty sure it's already a laundry list of people, so I don't really need to. But there's a lot of those people out there. A lot of them showed up at the little Met Gala too. So if you watch my Mentally Mitch reaction videos, there's a hint where you can figure out who I'm referring to in terms of whacked out couples who transition a kid before they're even old enough to know if they like the opposite sex or not. So dumb.
Blue Sky's particularly disgusting with what there is on that. No one ever talks about it. Yeah, let's not even get into like the accusations of people saying like, yeah, it's a freaking website that's got really bad problems on it, but nobody really addresses that. The Blue Sky was just made to stop Twitter AI harvesting. No, it's not even that. No, it was literally a response to I believe Elon buying Twitter. That's the biggest reason. That whatever else came after that, yeah, that's whatever. I don't know. I'm actually curious, chat. Do they have a link to the study? Somewhere? I wonder if there's like a demographic for like male and female for the boys and the girls. Like women are generally, like biologically speaking, more agreeable than men. Right? So they'll tend to say the line a lot more than men will.
Exactly.
Like I wonder if
it's not sexist.
Oh, there it is. You can read the original study here. Oh, look at that, they have it.
Like, well, I know my cousin and she, blah, blah, blah. And like, she didn't buy it. Like, yeah, sure. I'm not saying like, there aren't, that grinds my gears too. It's like, you say a generalized statement that by and large rings true about a particular group. But then you get, it's typically females who wants to argue the minor rather than the major. And they want to, just because they've seen that one or two minor examples, they're going to stick to it and make it the whole entire thing and discount like the majority. Sure, I know there's plenty of girls out there who won't go along to get along, and it's usually the sensible women. But overwhelmingly, there are women who buy into whatever because they like groupthink, and they tend to be more sheep than anything else, and they like think about the beauty products and the fashion trends. Kim Kardashian made these Skims, and all of a sudden, overwhelmingly, people are just buying Skims left and right instead of just the small minute of people who decide not to get those because they think it's ridiculous and look like literal skin. You wearing skins, and it doesn't look good. But you cannot disagree that like women, because one popular woman do it, they all want to do it because they think they can look like that, or they can be skinny, or whatever the case may be, because it's all about beauty standards and trying to look appealing as possible. It's the group thing. They're more susceptible to suggestion than the male counterparts. And not saying there are certain men who are who can fall prey to suggestion, but that is the minor compared to the major amount of guys who aren't so quick to buy into certain things. That's why girls need to lean on the men, because in case something is what's the word? In case something seems too good to be true, the guys can easily point that out, at least to a far more a higher degree by comparison. I'm not saying guys can't be fooled too, but it'll be a lot harder. That's why like a lot of girls need to lean on the guys, so that way they can't be fooled as easily, because the guys can point out the lies.
Yeah, I wonder if the study actually reflects that. Performative progressivism. I can't speak. Progressivism. Jesus, dude. And integrity fatigue. Reported toll of ideological conformity in higher education. Okay. 728, 732. Blah, 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 blah. Introduction, method participants. Ah, here we go. Okay, this is a proper study. All right. Yeah, look at that. Undergraduates recruited. Look at that. Site. Oh, site is location, I guess. So, like, this is University of Michigan and Northwestern University. Ah, there were more girls overall. Interesting. Yeah. There's more girls than boys at university. Ultra Moon and New Undies. Small sample size? No, I understand, but it's still interesting to look at. That's college now, yeah. Generally speaking, there's more girls than boys in, what is it called? In college nowadays. So what I will say is that this is a small sample size, and it's only from 2 universities. Like, I think it is an exaggeration to say that 88% of all students everywhere fake more progressive views. However, I would easily say it's a majority. I would easily say that the majority of students are doing that. Again, you can just see it by looking at social media. I think 88% is maybe a bit of a reach, obviously. But I do think that some people just want to avoid confrontation. They just don't want to deal with it. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to lose their potential college graduation, you know? Have you ever pretended to hold more progressive views than you believe to be accepted socially or academically? Response, 1,200. No, 11.8%. Campus X distribution. Oh... This one's neck and neck, but University of Michigan pulls ahead with 91%. That's crazy. Yeah, female slightly higher in UM. Yeah, 3%. It's not a huge difference, you're right. There is a little bit of a difference. I think they should have done, like, way more universities. Maybe, like, on East Coast and West Coast, and then maybe, like, one in the middle. That would be kind of interesting as well. Have different universities. How many of them feel like that? Yeah, do, like, a University of California one. I think that would be kind of cool, seeing that. Seeing that distribution for different schools. UM slightly higher.
I think, like, maybe, like, those religious colleges I probably have either they're more conservative or it's far even keeled in terms of people who grew up liberal and those who grew up more conservative. Probably not all that different from how colleges used to be back in the early 2000s, the 90s, and the 80s, and even the 70s. Whereas, like, free thinking and everybody's kind of like, you know, there's a mixed bag of all different kinds of beliefs. And nobody's overshadowing the other and nobody's pushing one out because they ain't thinking like a collective.
91% to 88%. Implication, blah, 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 blah. Interesting. Yeah. Submitted assignments misrepresent.
If you have to send your, I mean, I'm not telling you what to do with your kids, but if they want to go to a college and if you have the funds, I just suggest you convince them to go to a religious college. Because at the very least, I'm not 100% sure. Who knows how that got corrupted? Because I only just recently found out that, you know, the wokeism kind of affected most of, or feminism kind of affected most of, you know, literature in the past decade at least. It's just kind of like, it was a lot. I reacted to a video about that earlier this week. So it's like, it's almost everywhere. It's not even just in pop culture. So who knows what these religious colleges are like. They might gotten affected at least a little bit, maybe not to the same extent as other colleges, but I think it's either that or military colleges. It's like, you know, one of those two. The less likely they'll get indoctrinated with some crazy woke ideology, or just your best bet, don't send them to any colleges at all unless they're trying to become like a doctor or engineer or a lawyer. If that is the case, send them to a community college. At least you can save some money, and they don't have to stay in no dorm. They can just come back home to you when classes are done, so that way you can still have your influence on your child, so they don't become crazy leftists. They can just have, they don't need to be crazy right people either, but they'll have some kind of even keeled of a mindset, and they can think for themselves rather than doing some group think, you know, kind of stuff.
Presenting your actual views to align with expected ideology. Results, yes, 82.4%. No, 70. I mean, honestly, this kind of makes sense. Yeah, this does kind of make sense. Like, if I was in college again and I had to fake my views so that I could pass, I would probably do it. I'm sorry. I'm not... And there's money on the line as well. I don't know. I'd want to know what kind of college degrees these people also have, too, as well. Why are they writing about political views? I mean, it depends. We don't even know what degree they're doing. It could be. That's always been the case. It's just more common now because of politics in the classroom. Yeah. I don't know. Interesting. I do find it interesting. Very fascinating. You could, but my whole point, even if you say, oh, Alana, the sample size is too small, you can see it in real life and in online. You can. Twitter, 4chan, Reddit, Blue Sky. It's happening there, too.
All right, yeah. Yep. She's not wrong. And I definitely, maybe it's, like you said, maybe slightly higher than it probably really is, but let's give it like, let's say you lowball it to be 75% or maybe 70%. That's still a pretty high number of people who truly don't believe this stuff, but they have to go along to get along and go along kind of thing, just in order to get that degree, so they can walk freely without getting accosted everywhere, or even get a freaking job, so they can just live their life because they probably not super political, but they have a personal belief. They're not trying to push on anybody, but everybody else is crazy leftists, and God help you if you have conservative beliefs on any level. God forbid you agree with anything, any policy that is connected to Donald Trump in any kind of way. God help you, because they will rake you through the coals, and try to get you pushed out of these universities before the week is over, because they feel unsafe around you, which is completely ironic. But yeah, I'm curious to know what you guys think. Leave a comment below. Like I said, check out SmugAlana. Her channel is incredible. She's very fun. And let me know in the comments below what you think, and I will see you guys a little bit later as I'm getting back to some Digimon and maybe some Marvel Rivals tonight before I close out the stream for tonight. But anyway, take care, and I'll see you all soon. Peace.